it's been announced that we will be having a weekend Splatfest weekend. No, that was not a typo in my script. For the purpose of discussing the question, I will be assuming a traditional work week of Monday through Friday with Saturday and Sunday off. Oh, what's that? You have a job where Wednesday and Thursday are your days off? Neat. I don't get any weekends at all, as it turns out, but I went to school once and I remember what that was like, so I can take the question in its intended context. And in all likelihood, so can you. That said, beyond Friday, Saturday, and Sunday are, in fact, the days of the weekend, there aren't a lot of assumptions we can make, and some of this is going to be normative or based on what a majority of people do. For example, some people might always go out with their friends on Friday night to celebrate the end of the work week. Anecdotally, Fridays tend to be a little bit busier for concerts and bars than Saturdays. Maybe these folks choose Friday because they party really hard or stay up really late and they need the rest of the weekend to physically recover in time and get their schedules realigned so they don't hate their lives on Monday. Maybe it's because a lot of people get paid on Fridays and they're excited about that. Maybe it's just the first opportunity they have to cut loose after 5 straight days of work and they're impatient to get out there and let off some steam. Maybe I'm not working with enough data, and Friday isn't actually the busier night out across the whole population. It's really hard to say without doing some legitimate sociological study. And ain't nobody paying me for that. Another major variable here, as you might have intuited from the previous example, is the age of the person. A child isn't ever getting paychecks or going out to bars on Friday night, so Friday night is going to take on a very different meaning for them. Probably the single most consistent variable, given that these days are one's entire weekend, is proximity to weekdays. Sunday suffers from this in that Monday is looming in the background and preparations need to be made for it. Saturday is closer to Monday than Friday is. Friday, though, doesn't get off scot-free, because most of Friday is actually a weekday, and it's only the last maybe 8 hours of it that actually count as the weekend. There's work that gets done on a Friday, even if maybe not as much as the other 4 weekdays. Lots of people get a little lazy and sloppy on Fridays, and bosses and managers are no exception, so maybe that's not as bad for some. But it's still not the same as the total freedom of waking up on a Saturday with no work responsibilities in sight, and still having a buffer day between then and Monday. Saturday probably wins by this metric, but only slightly, and there are a lot of other considerations. With Saturdays being so free, they often get set up as a time to run errands or do chores, which can eat into the feeling of freedom. Sunday actually does get some points back because, being the day before Monday, that often means that more than any other day, people are going to just relax, take naps, chill out. And that may well be exactly what you look forward to the most about a weekend. I've heard people talk about lazy Sundays, but not lazy Fridays or lazy Saturdays, and sometimes lazy feels real good. One less consistent but statistically relevant variable, at least in my neck of the woods, is that Sunday is a traditional day of worship for Christians, and I imagine any number of other religious groups living in majority Christian cultures that just needed to pick a convenient day to do their own thing. What that means depends largely on the person. Maybe it's an invigorating day of feeling more aligned with a sense of purpose and optimism, a chance to see friends you know through this whole separate community your faith gives you access to, and a chance to hear wisdom from older generations. Maybe it's really boring because your parents drag you there and you zone out for 2 straight hours. Maybe it's intensely uncomfortable because you hold contrary beliefs but your family still insists you go and you don't want to make waves. It is probably a more common opinion, regardless of all this, that important though it may be to many people, this aspect of Sunday isn't going to make it more, quote, fun, unquote, than the other days of the weekend. Whether you value it being fun above other descriptors is up to you, but I think most people would say that's a fair assessment. It's important to note here that Japan will not be a factor in this Splatfest, because that would make this aspect of Sunday a lot less important. That country is primarily Shinto and Buddhist, rather than Christian. So while Sunday is still a day off, it has a much less religious significance. But this topic is only for NA and EU, both of which have Christian majorities and similar cultures surrounding the practice of that religion, so I think the assumptions should largely hold. Saturday is the first morning, the first sunrise of the weekend, and if there's something exciting about morning for you, that can give Saturday a really positive swing. Early risers may like it more for that reason. This is less of a convention now, but it was pretty common for Saturday morning to be peak cartoon watching hours for kids, and kids' TV networks would line up their best shows and premieres for those time slots. So kids with a fondness for those shows might find Saturdays more appealing. They also may just enjoy being able to wake up and not have to get ready for school or church and play instead. As far as meme vote potential, Friday probably has an edge thanks to Rebecca Black's 2011 single, which bombed spectacularly and probably made her life a lot more difficult to live afterward, because human beings still haven't figured out the consequences of a mass internet dogpile now, so in 2011, forget about it. There's a spectrum between Friday and Sunday of people who are, on the Friday side, impulsive, excited, extroverted, and more likely to party, and on the Sunday side, mellow, relaxed, happy to just hang out and enjoy some good food or take a nap. The religious aspect of Sunday, while significant, is probably either less meaningful or even an active deterrent for more Splatoon players, since this scene is disproportionately gay and gay people are disproportionately unaffiliated with religion, roughly 50% unaffiliated with religion in comparison to roughly 20% unaffiliated in the total population. If that's one of the first associations that comes to people's minds when thinking about Sunday, and from what I've seen on Twitter, it seems like that might be the case, I'm not anticipating it doing super well. I would also say it's pretty likely that Sunday gets docked a lot of points for being so close to the dreaded Monday, Garfield's nemesis, the single most hated day by coffee mugs globally. Between Friday and Saturday, you can never count out Shiver just winning from idle popularity, but I think Fry's picked a strong contender this time around, and I anticipate it being close between the two. That said, it's not Silly Comp Friday, and it's not Silly Comp Saturday. So we'll be throwing in our lots with Big Man, and, I guess, with Jesus. And, maybe that's all we really need after all.